Hi, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Next Level Women podcast. I am super thrilled. I know I say I'm always excited, but today I'm really, really excited because I have the amazing NaKeesa Marie coming back on the show. If you remember, or if you haven't watched that episode, it is episode number 172, where she was a guest panelist on the show. But now she's coming here solo to bless us with her amazing wisdom and the gift she has. Welcome back to the show, Miss NaKeesa.
Thank you so much for having me back. I'm just really thrilled and honored that you asked me to come on as a solo guest. Thank you so much.
You are most welcome. In fact, I cannot wait to delve into today's episode because there were so many golden nuggets you shared when you were on the panel a few episodes ago. But I wanted you to come here and speak individually and bless us with your gift. But for those people who haven't listened to episode 172, introduce yourself again and tell us what you do.
Yes, thank you. So I am NaKeesa Marie Fraser Jennings, and my business is NaKeesa Marie Enterprises. I started NaKeesa Marie Enterprises. It was really born out of my many years of being an artist myself, but more importantly, an artist manager for my husband and other visual artists. I did that for many years, and I also managed myself. I'm a literary artist. I'm a writer, but I did serve as a artist manager for the visual artists over the years because I really had a passion for helping them get their work out there. A lot of visual artists don't have someone to work with them or help speak on their behalf or, broker deals or things like that. And a lot of artists I found over the years working with my husband and meeting them needed someone to help them with the kind of behind the scenes things, the behind the scenes parts of running a business. Because if you're an artist making money, you're a business owner, whether some of them realize it or not. So I really wanted to help artists in that way. That organically kind of morphed into me no longer doing really hands-on management with artists and transitioning to being a consultant more so for not just artists but other small business owners, because I also learned that no matter what kind of small business owners have, a lot of them need that same kind of support that I was giving to artists. So I looked at myself as the pre-consultant because a lot of consultants are working at this level. And a lot of people need something kind of in between to get ready for a big time manager or like bigger opportunities that may come their way. So getting a lot of things situated and figured out and organized and running smoothly on the back end is what I really wanted to help small business owners with as a consultant. So I also have been almost for my whole life, a true advocate of self-care. And a lot of people would constantly ask me, how do you do all these different things? You have all these different jobs and things on your plate, and you show up, rested and happy and, joyful for all the things that you need to do. How do you do that? And my answer would always be self-care. So then my business now has shifted to really being more vocal about being a self-care advocate. I've always been doing things behind the scenes in that space, hosting dinners for women at my home and online, and just constantly talking about the importance of self-care, writing pieces as, a literary artist about the importance of self-care. So I decided to create a resource that I needed for myself and I didn't see, which was a guided journal. I really wanted a journal tool that I didn't have to think about every day, like write longhand or think about, oh, what happened today? What do I want to write about? I didn't really want that style. I wanted something that was going to give me question prompts to respond to, but really something that would help me dig more into my needs, do that self-assessment. And it was structured in that way because, like a lot of us, I have limited time to do certain things, but I still find them important. So I felt that structure would work very well for me, but I didn't see one that really spoke to me. So I decided to create it myself. And then that morphed into creating 8 different versions of the book for all different identities from kids, teens, to adults. And that's what I'm doing now. I'm doing workshops, I'm doing talks. I have a one-woman show about the importance of self-care that combines my written work with a community conversation about the importance of self-care. And then I do a book signing afterwards. So that's kind of where I am now. And I'm going on, different shows and podcasts to talk about the importance of self-care. And I do that, like I said, I believe in self-care for everyone, but I prioritize Black women like me.
That's incredible. Yes, self-care for everyone. And the guided journal you talked about, I have my own amazing copy, which we are going to delve into shortly. It just has some amazing prompts, which I have actually started working on with my daughter. My daughter was so happy to see all of the pictures in the journal. So incredible. But before we go into the journal, I want you to tell us, in your experience,
Mhm.
why do you think most women struggle with self-care? I know, like, we hear it in the news or anywhere else where people talk about personal development and talk about self-care, but in practice, women find it so difficult to implement. Why do you think that is?
My opinion is that, and what I feel that I've observed is that we are socialized to put ourselves last. We're socialized to be the caretakers, to be the nurturers, to, take care of everybody else outward. And we are given the message that if we take time for ourselves, that we are being selfish, that we're being arrogant, that we're, being neglectful, that there really is no place and space in the way that our society works for us to do that easily and with a lot of support on a regular basis. So, in order for women to do that, they really have to fight for that space. They have to prioritize that. And they really have to push back on narratives that they might be thinking in their own mind or what is happening in their household, in their, you know, community, in their families, the message that if they take time out for themselves, that for some reason that's not what should be on the priority list. So I think that it is messages that we receive from a very young age, and it is perpetuated and it grows more and more as we get older and have more responsibilities. Even if you only have the responsibility for yourself, like in your household, maybe you don't have a partner, or you don't have children to take care of, or you don't have parents to care for, we still often don't take the time to prioritize ourselves. And I think it is because of messaging and socialization.
Wow, yeah, that is so true. And same thing I have seen in my community, my sphere of influence, women who always prioritize other people and put themselves last.
Mhm.
But when we prioritize ourselves, everyone else gets to benefit. Like, I get to
Yes.
be a better mom, I get to be a better partner, a better business owner. Like, it
Hmm.
affects all areas of my life.
Hmm.
So tell us, when you've worked with women who have done this work and they're prioritizing self-care, what impact have you seen it has on their immediate family and even people they interact with day to day?
I always like to use myself as an example and not, kind of share what like other people have told me confidentially. So, what I will say though that I think is generic enough is that what I am finding, particularly since I released the books and have like an actual tool, a resource, is that women are coming to me with tears in their eyes. They are thanking me for having something that they can like hold on to, that they can use whenever they, see fit. And that having like the pictures in there, like the version that you have, is very impactful for them to see themselves through the process of doing that self-assessment in, writing in response to the writing prompt. So I just get a lot of thank yous for from women in particular for um, not only having that resource, but bringing up the conversation and using my life as, an example, or, something that they can think about my story as encouragement for them. So how it's shown up in my life is I always, or I began to start sharing this story that I really didn't share publicly very much in the past, but I had a very severe and life-threatening health emergency when I was in my mid 30s, and it really almost took me out completely. It lasted for the better part of a year. I had 12 surgeries in 3 months and a couple more after that. My mom had to move across the country from, where she lived, and move in with me and my husband for about 3 or 4 months so that my husband could still work because I couldn't work. I was in and out of the hospital, and it did not look good for my prognosis didn't look good to survive. So I said to myself, if I do survive, I am going to double down, triple down, quadruple down on my self care, because I was already practicing self care before that happened. But the reason that I thought that way was because the doctors, the surgeon, they couldn't give me an explanation as to why I was stricken with this condition and why the surgeries were not working. They would continue to do the surgery, and I would go home for, excuse me, a couple of weeks, and would end up back in the hospital again for another surgery. So I asked them, of course, like, where'd this come from? Of course, I asked them that question, and they said, there's nothing that you did, and we don't know, why that is happening. And so I said to myself, well, if they can't give me an answer, then extra self-care won't hurt. It can only help, because I thought to myself that maybe stress, was the reason why that happened. Because though I was engaging in self-care, I had so many things on my plate. I was working full time. I was going to school. I was traveling across the country to see my family a lot. I was doing date nights with my husband. I was trying to be there for all my friends, if they needed to talk or go on a walk or needed a hug, or, whatever it was. So I just had, and I was volunteering for the community as well. So I was just spread too thin. And I think that a lot of times when we're younger, we think that we can do those things with no impact, no results on ourselves and our health. And so I thought, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove a lot of those things, or the way or the amount that I do those things. So I took about 75% of the things off of my, calendar. And I really started to engage in self-care things that were beyond sleeping in on Saturdays, or going to the spa, or you know, getting a massage or things like that. I still did those things, and there's nothing wrong with those things, but those things are not sufficient. And I do like to use my example because I want people to take from my story and apply it to whatever way it works for them. Because for my self-care, how I needed to deepen it was to take a lot of those things off of my plate and reprioritize not doing as much. But your self-care might be something else. It might be taking your PTO from work. It might be making sure you take your lunch and don't work through lunch. It could be, all different kinds of things. So once I did that, I really realized that though I was happy and I had a good life before I made that change, I was really able to thrive after that. I didn't show up tired at things. I was getting, enough replenishment for myself so that, like you said a few minutes ago, every other part of my life benefited because I invested in me. So people often think that when you invest in yourself, especially us women, when we invest in ourselves, that we're taking from other people or other things, but no, we're actually showing up a better version. So everybody really does benefit.
Wow, that is profound. And thank you so much for sharing your story. I know it will encourage and inspire women listening to this podcast right now. So thank you so much for that. So I want to go to the the journal and how you came to put this lovely journal together. Tell us about that process.
Yeah, so I was talking to one of my aunties and just telling her about some things that I was doing. I always check in with her and give her the update. She's not on social media and things like that. So I say, Auntie, I'm doing this, or I'm about to do that, or I'm interested in doing this. And she said to me that you are making Black history every single day and you need to document that. And I said, what does that mean? I was like, yeah, I'm going to write my memoir one day. So she's like, no, you need to journal. She said, when you get older, one of the things you'll find is that you might not, completely lose your memory or anything like that. She wasn't trying to put that out there. But what she was sharing was from her own experience, which is she's like, I don't remember every single detail very clearly about things that I might want to remember, or I might want to share with someone else, or share with a younger woman like you to encourage you, or just, tell you a story that I think you might enjoy. And so by journaling, you'll be able to recall those things more clearly, or be reminded of those things, because we are constantly getting, information all day, every day. So it only makes sense that we're not going to recall 50 years later, maybe something we did when we were 20, or all the details. So I was pretty resistant to her suggestion, to be honest with you, because I was just like, I don't have time to fit another thing onto my schedule, especially journaling. Like it just seemed like something that was just another chore to put on my in my schedule. So I kind of stored it away, but it kept nagging at me. That thing that you need to do, it nags at your brain, right? And on my heart. And I really do believe and value the fact that I am creating Black history every day. And I am, encouraging and being encouraged by, other women in particular. So that's very important to me to be a part of, to be doing. It's a privilege and an honor. And I think that I was thinking, well, I have videos, I do interviews, like it is being documented, but documenting things in my own words is a different thing, right? So I said, fine, universe, I will I will figure out a way that I can create. Or again, I went to look for a tool because I was going to just go buy one and use whatever version I found. But I said, I'm not finding that. So I guess that means I have to create one myself. So what I really wanted to do, rather than do exactly what my auntie was saying, which was, documenting kind of all the things that I do, because I do feel that like the videos and the interviews and social media do a great job of documenting that for me. I really wanted to document my journey, my self assessment, thinking about where am I today? Where was I the next day? Where was I, many days or years beyond that? Because that will trigger, memories for me too. And I think that will give me the opportunity when I am older and I am talking about my story, or when I do finish writing my memoir, that will be, information that I will have gathered for myself. My future self will thank me because I will be able to draw on that, look at that, and it will help me learn and grow and evolve in my personal development, and be very clear about where I am, and if there are things that I want to do differently, things I want to do more of, things I want to evolve from, So that's why I created my guided journals in the way that I did, because I think that that self-reflection is very important for now and into the future, and it helps feed our self-love, which self-care is the ultimate form of self-love, in my opinion.
Yes, I was just going to come to self-love because I, from my personal experience, when I journal, it's almost like putting on paper things I have been hiding or running away from. That's
Oh,
my experience. So I feel like it then exposes aspects of myself that I don't really like. So, how would you coach women, or what advice would you have for women who are like, journaling? I'm not sure I'm ready to kind of reveal aspects of myself to myself because the journal is private to me. And even though it's private to me, because I'm still having to like take thoughts, how I'm feeling from my head into paper, then I have this resistance. Well, can you speak to that?
My opinion is that just because we write it down on paper doesn't mean the earth is going to still spin. Nothing bad is going to happen, in my opinion, because we put things down on paper, and it can really be very helpful to actually see something, whether you're ready to do something about it or not. There are plenty of things that I write down in my journal that I may not be ready to move on it, but the self awareness, the seeing it is super, super important so that when I am ready to face it or do something about it, I can go to it and I can reflect and think about what I want to do next.
Yeah, that's so powerful. And yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. Tell us where the inspiration came from for the images you have. Like there's so many compelling images. How did you come up with those?
Well, I will say that initially, I wanted it to be to coincide with this art exhibit that I was the creative director for. That art exhibit was my husband's last art exhibit, and it was hung in 2024. It was 5 years in the making, and it was something that I really wanted to happen, which was to have 25 or more large scale paintings of Black women and Black girls all in one space, all in one gallery or one museum. So I came up with the concept. I asked all of our family and friends who have that identity to be models. Um, Most of them agreed, and we created a beautiful display of real girls and women, not models super made up or, whatever. Women that I think are very relatable to other women and girls who are very relatable to other Black women and girls. So I thought that I would take the photos that we took of them for him to use as reference to paint the pictures and use those in the book. So initially, I kind of played around with that. We got their permission. They signed, releases and a contract and all that. And I tried to make that work, but it just didn't for some reason give me all the different, I guess, messages that I wanted to portray throughout the book. They were all beautiful, obviously, but what I really wanted the book to do was show Black women in particular in every single way that we exist. I wanted a lot of smiles. A lot of the pictures that we took for the exhibit, they weren't necessarily smiling. So I really wanted smiling to be in there. And I didn't know this necessarily until I got into the process when I was, doing, putting like all the pictures together kind of in my book template. So I wanted us to be shown smiling, at peace, relaxing, experiencing joy. And I made two very important decisions that were actually very hard for me in this process. Number one, I didn't want to show us doing any labor. Anything that looked like working, I didn't want us to be, I didn't want any of those pictures in there. And I didn't want any pictures in there showing us being caretakers because my book is about self care. And we have
Mm.
enough images of us doing those things, and we have to do those things. And there's nothing wrong with those things, but I really wanted this to be a space where when women would be writing in this journal and looking through the pictures, and even young girls maybe looking through the pictures, they don't see that message reinforced that our self-care has to be earned through labor. So,
Mm.
though I'm very proud of us for being bosses, for being entrepreneurs, for being doctors, lawyers, at the head of the table in the C suite, I'm so proud of us for doing those things. But this book is not about that. And I really wanted that message to be clear. So, anybody, whether they have the Black woman's identity or not, looking through this book will not see those images. This book is a pushback on the narrative that we have to be doing something or we have to earn self care through labor.
Mm. I love that. So we do not have to earn self-care. We can take care of ourselves without labor. Just
Hmm.
for being, we
Just for
can take.
being, because you exist. You deserve self
Mm,
care because you exist. It's a
wow.
human right.
Yes. Yes. Oh gosh. Now you just talked about it. I remember someone saying, we are human beings, not human doers. And
Yeah.
that our being just bees.
Just be. Yeah. I have gotten up in the morning and not had, anything that I needed to do. So I would get up, maybe work out or not, shower, and put on a different pair of pajamas and get on the couch. You know what I mean? And so I'm not tired. I just woke up. I got rest, but I deserve to do that because I exist, because I'm a human being. So that is what I want people, especially women, to think about. We don't have to earn it. We've already earned it because we're breathing,
Mm.
right? And we
Oh,
deserve it because we exist.
wow. Wow. So good. As you were speaking, I just felt like this needs to evolve to a retreat, like
Yeah.
having like maybe a quarterly retreat for women to go to a place where they can just focus on themselves. Is that in
Hmm.
the card?
That is definitely in the cards. I am planning two or three different ones right now as we speak, that will be happening this year. So more on that to come. I am doing workshops. Like I said, I have a one woman like literary show where I read a couple of the pieces that I've written that have been published in different publications because they are about my experience, my like life's journey. And I talk about the need for self-care in those pieces. So it just hit me one day. I need to share these pieces because they really do correlate with me evolving to the place where I created these books. Like I wasn't thinking about my writing, those particular writings in these books in the same, frame in my head, but they really do go together because they are authentically me. So it makes sense that the person that walked this journey that I'm talking about in these pieces would then create a tool and a resource for people to utilize. So it really has worked out very well to read those pieces, then have a community conversation, because what I found in those community conversations is no matter what identity the people in the audience come with, they all need to talk about self-care more. It is almost in my mind like an epidemic of not doing that enough. And so people are always thanking me, no matter what community they belong to, of even just bringing up the topic and having an open dialogue and conversation about how important it is and how it's, impacted my life, and how I encourage everyone to do that as well, even teens and young kids, because I think that a lot of times we don't think that they need or deserve self care, and they should be taught how to do that, how to care for themselves in that way, just like we teach them to care for themselves in so many other ways. Brush your teeth, eat your vegetables, get enough sleep. So, doing that, having those conversations, talking about how important it is for everyone, and then, doing the book signing has been, a wonderful thing as well. So, yes to retreats, yes to workshops, yes to this one woman show and podcast and other appearances to just continue this conversation and making sure that everybody is hearing this message that self care is something that you deserve because you exist.
Yes, something we deserve because we exist. And I think the reason why people need to pay more attention to self-care is because of mental health. I think in the last 3 to 4 years, I think mental health has become a topic that is now mainstream,
Mm-hmm.
and especially how well, I want to say bad mental health, but how not taking care of our mental health can affect all areas of our lives. So I feel like self-care is like the holy grail for protecting our mental health and making sure that we are healthy mentally and emotionally. So I want you to tell us, how can people get a hold of this amazing book?
They can get a hold of it in a couple of different ways. So they can get a hold of that one and the other versions that I have. I have so many. Here's the book stack right here of all the versions that I
Wow.
have. So my website, NaKeesaMarie.com. It in the shop is where you can go under guided journals and you can purchase one there. I have physical copies and I have ebooks so people can download it instantly, and they have the same they have a similar experience where they can type in their answers and they are saved in the book. They can also go on Amazon, because I have them on Amazon. I don't ship from my website outside of the United States. So if you're in a different place outside of the US and you have Amazon, then you can get each one of my books on that platform as well.
Yes, incredible. And that's exactly where I got mine. I got mine from Amazon Canada, and it arrived in like 2 days.
Oh, great, great, great. I'm so thrilled you got it and that you already started using it. I have a question for you, if you don't mind, about the
Yeah.
book.
Yes.
What has been your experience and what do you think about, having the experience of journaling with that particular book?
Yeah. So I like the first thing I did was to go through the images with my daughter because um coincidentally she was in my office the day we talked about the book.
Yes,
And
yes.
she was really excited for when the book arrived. So we both opened the book together. We went through the images together, and I told her that mommy's going to be journaling in this book. So my plan is to journal in this book and then pass it on to her. So when she's older, she can see what mommy was thinking and how my self-care evolved. So that's my
Oh
goal
my.
with so I haven't, well, because it just arrived a few days ago. I haven't really started journaling myself. I've just enjoyed the images. I've looked through the questions that I'm going to be answering every single day. And the first thing that came up for me was what I shared earlier about if I'm going to start journaling my thoughts and the way I take care of myself, then I'm this kind of person that is very self-critical. So seeing it on paper is gonna make me start kind of becoming more self-aware and kind of ask myself, why am I treating myself this way? Why am I not taking care of myself more? Which is a good thing, right? It's going to help me improve my self-care. But from the point of view of being a very self-critical person, I was having that resistance about documenting what's on my head into paper. But having spoken to you today and the amazing responses you gave, I am even more excited to start journaling and taking care of myself. And this is going to push me to take care of myself, to prioritize myself, and helping me realize that when I take care of myself, I get to be a better mom for my daughter. I get to be a better woman in society in general, and just being a more joyful and happy person. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to this.
Thank you. Thank you for just, sharing that part of like kind of some of your self thoughts, because I was having a conversation on, I think, a podcast a few weeks ago with someone about how we really are also socialized to be very self-critical. It's not something you're like born with, but I always say like when there's like a little baby in your life or a toddler or something, and they fall down when they're learning to walk. We don't say, something critical or mean to them. We say, oh, that's okay. And we might help them, get back up physically, or we encourage them to stand back up. But well, as we age, that
Mm.
negative self-talk, that negative, way of speaking to ourselves kind of seeps in. And one of the reasons why the first question in the version of the book that you have is the first writing prompt is, what do I like or love about myself in this very moment? Because I really want us to start thinking about ourselves in a different way. So that was why that was like the first question, because I know that that's a way that a lot of us like have that soundtrack in our minds. It's not very positive, or it's self-critical. And I really want us to flip that, because the more love and encouragement you show to a little child who's learning to walk, the more confident they feel, the more excited they feel about doing that, right? And I think the same thing will happen with us if we are more kind to ourselves with our internal messaging.
Wow, that is so true. Like me hearing you say these words, like I can relate to it at a logical level. And now my job is to go implement and make it practical to me to see that, yes, this is good for me. It's okay to be self-critical, but the more I invest in the self-love and writing those prompts, like I'm looking at the exact question you just talked about. What do I like or love about myself at this very moment? The more I answer those questions, the more I feel self love for myself. And the more I love myself, the more I love life, the more I love my family, my children, and all of them. So thank you so much. This has truly been a blessing.
You're very welcome. One other thing I wanted to say too, for if we have time, please let me
Yes.
know.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, yes.
Okay. Thank you. So for women like me and you who are entrepreneurs, and a lot of us are solopreneurs even, I also think that self-care is super, super important for us as well. I think it's very important for everyone, and I think it's super important for women. And, obviously I said in my work, I prioritize Black women because I think it's super, super important for them. And I want them to see someone that looks like them talking about this and demonstrating this and supporting them on their individual journeys. But I also think it's super important for women who are entrepreneurs, because whether we're like negatively self-critical or not, I think that it is kind of in the nature of what we do, of constantly like thinking about, how can I do this better? What do I need to do next? This, that, the other, because it's a singular thing that we're doing, right? So we only have ourselves a lot of times to be thinking about the positive, the good, and the, bad things that happen. But it can really take a toll on us. It can really be draining and super stressful. So I really think it's super important for those of us who are entrepreneurs and have so many things on our plates to take time out to do something like, whether it's journaling or not, but taking time to prioritize and make sure that self-care is on our list of things to do. So we often, as entrepreneurs, have a to-do list. On my to-do list every single day, self-care is at the top. I am at the top, and self-care is at the top, and everything else is either under that or around that, because I want to make sure that no matter what I accomplish that day, I am making sure that I am pouring into me, so that again we can be the best that we can be, and that we hopefully can balance the, a lot of the stressful times, because we're nourishing ourselves with self-care.
Yes. And just as I was listening to what you just said now, it just occurred to me that self-care practices has a hugely positive impact on our physical health,
Mm,
right? And that's
mm,
something we even delved into.
mm.
So, especially as women that are in our 40s, 50s, and 60s, this is a time to prioritize our physical health, and
Yes.
self-care, especially mental self-care, goes a long way in how it affects our physical health.
I would agree. I always make sure that I do something that is from different categories, I would say, in my self-care practice. So the part that's around the physical health is I'm making sure I'm eating nutrient-dense foods. I'm making sure that I am getting exercise. I'm making sure I'm getting outside and getting fresh air. I also do things that bring me joy, that are just fun. Whether it's like a fun book that I'm reading, or, I have a catch up, with one of my friends and we just giggle, and catch up the whole time. All of those things I think help me physically. I can't prove it. I'm not a doctor, I don't give medical
Yeah.
advice, but the way I feel from doing those things, I think really has, again, like I was saying, I went from living and liking my life, having a good life, to really experiencing nonstop, almost joy, constant joy, I should say, and thriving. And self-care did that for me.
Yes, and yeah, I hear you about not being a doctor, but self-care helps us to reduce stress. And we know that high stress levels causes cortisol in our bodies to go up, and that causes inflammation. So
Mhm.
yeah, I feel you. Whenever I take care of myself and I'm so relaxed, I can feel the benefit in my body. I feel alive and I feel well, and it's just really, really priceless.
I agree. Thank you.
Before I let you go, I want you to share some last words with our listeners, something that they can take away and go implement today.
This is always my favorite question, and I'm not answering it this way because I'm trying not to answer, but I always want people to take what they've heard, process it, think about it, and then I want them to think about what is one thing that is reasonable for me to do, whether it's just for today or whether it's a small change that I can do every day. I mentioned earlier, like if you skip lunch, take your lunch. If you don't take breaks, if you don't ever look away from the computer, just looking away from the screen for 5 minutes, that's self-care. Whatever self-care means for you, reading a book. If you have books that you have been meaning to read, or maybe you don't have books but you have a library card and you can go check them out for free. Just think about what makes sense for you, because my self-care journey and my self-care practice, or what I would recommend, would be what would be meaningful for me, or what is realistic for me. And I can't answer that for other people, but I want people to have enough, I take enough from this conversation to say, I do deserve this because I exist. And what is one thing that I can do that is, maybe not easy, but something that I'm capable of doing? Because I think any kind of change, if you're not used to doing something, even if it's something good for you, it can still be challenging, right? But give yourself enough grace, love yourself enough to make that step towards your well being in whatever kind of self care way that is. And I can't answer that and like give a
Mm.
one size fits all for people, but whatever that is, commit to um, figuring that out, and then just try it out one time, see if you can do it again the next day or next week. Whatever makes sense, for you, is what I want to encourage people to do.
That is so beautiful. And thank you so much for saying that. And it's so true because everyone listening have their various unique personal circumstances. So yeah, you are so right. Thank you so much for that. So tell us, how can people connect with you?
So they can connect with me on all social media platforms, at NaKeesaMarie.com. And I had mentioned my website earlier, or I'm sorry, at NaKeesa Marie on social media. My website is NaKeesaMarie.com. And, they can catch me on some podcasts because I'm out here doing a lot of podcasts. So I think if you Google me or you search for my name on YouTube, you can see me on various podcasts and conversations talking about this very subject.
Amazing. And I know you mentioned workshops. Are
Mhm.
there in-person workshops? And if so, tell us the cities where you are touring, where you can go sign copies for people.
So I have not begun my book tour yet. That's still in the works. So I don't know what the cities will be just yet. I will be doing some virtual book tours. So if you sign up for my newsletter or you connect with me or follow me on social media, I will be announcing when I will be doing the next either virtual workshop or having a book tour virtual stop. And you can catch me that way.
Amazing. Oh my gosh, it's been a joy having you on the show, Miss Nekisa. Thank you so much for the work you're doing and for helping women to prioritize self-care. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joy.